Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, we're going to be looking at a pair of new Shaymin cards from the upcoming Crimson Invasion expansion. And no, of course they're not as good as the other Shaymin. Why would they be? So let's start off with Shaymin land form. He is a grass Pokemon, which I suppose means you're hitting weakness on Rockruff. Not the end of the world, and Ether Paradise Conservation Area can be used to reduce damage done to Shaymin. Obviously it's Shaymin, it's unlikely to be a main attacker, and as we're going to see in a minute, it isn't. But if you're playing Ether Paradise Conservation Area anyway, it's a basic grass Pokemon, it can use the protection. Retreat cost of 1 is pretty good because it has a single energy attack, and the weakness to fire is an odd one. It's weak to Volcanion. Now, Volcanion doesn't see very much play at the moment because it's just not very good against Gardevoir. Gardevoir's a really good deck. But there's so much metal stuff coming out in Ultra Prism and around that time that Gardevoir is likely to see a big drop in play. Which then means that Volcanion becomes a much better deck, so it is something to watch out for at that point in time. And 80 HP is, I'm going to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, it's not good. It's a little bit low. Don't get excited about the 80 HP. Now, the first attack here, for 1 colourless energy, is basically a Bridget, but the Pokemon have to be 3 different types. It says that you can search your deck for 3 basic Pokemon of different types and pop them onto your bench. And as usual, our translations are provided by the lovely RappelmannTCG, Mr. David Hockman himself. And the thing is that we all know at the moment that Bridget is a great card. Turn 1 play for the vast majority of people at the moment is use Tapu Lele to go and grab a Bridget to search for 3 basic Pokemon. In theory, this does the same thing, as long as they're all different types. Although there are some notable downsides compared to the old Bridget. One of them is that if you go first, you can't actually use this attack. So if you go first, then you can only use this on your second turn. Do you really want to be filling up your bench with an attack on your second turn of the game? For most people, the answer is no, because on the second turn of the game, you can have evolved. Maybe you've got a Gardevoir going on your second turn, and Infinite Force is a lot better than this on the second turn of the game. If you go second, this is a great turn 1 attack. But even then, if you go second, would you not rather use something like a Boswell instead? I would suggest that maybe for a lot of people, the answer would be yes. The other thing is that if you use a Bridget and then you use this attack, well then you've got a full bench and there's no room for Tapu Lele, and sometimes on the second turn of the game, maybe you want to use a Tapu Lele to grab yourself an N, for instance, which isn't an issue, or at least not an option, if you've filled up your bench. So maybe you don't want Bridget and this. I'm not convinced that's particularly amazing. The fact that it's a colourless attack does mean that it can be used by any deck whatsoever, but the fact that you need 3 different type of basic Pokemon does really limit the usefulness. Now, there are a whole bunch of things we can do here. Oranguru is colourless, Remoraid is water, it evolves into Octillery, and Zorua is darkness, that evolves into Zoroark. And these are tech Pokemon that will be played. They will help give you at least a second type. And if you think of something like a Golisopod deck, well, they'll often want to get a Wimpod to evolve into Golisopod, and then they want to go and get something like a Zorua, then they want to go and get a Tapu Koko, because Golisopod decks want Tapu Koko to retreat so they can first impression for more damage. That's actually really handy. If you take something like a Gardevoir, well, you've got both the Psychic and the Fairy type routes, so you could play a mixture of them and then grab something like a Remoraid as well. For those decks, this could actually be quite a good Pokemon. But then if you're just playing a straight Zoroark deck, 1 Zorua, that's all you can get. You can't get a second Darkness Pokemon. For some decks, this could actually be kind of fun. For other decks, I just don't think they play enough different types to make it worth it. It's good if you don't get a Bridget, or it's good, let's say for instance you've got a terrible hand. Well, you N to grab something like an energy to attach, and then you use this instead of a Bridget. We've all had those turns where we play a Bridget, but then we don't get the turn 1 energy attachment. I can see it seeing play as a bit of a Bridget substitute, so that you can play something like an N to grab yourself an energy at the same time, but I don't see this being a ubiquitous card that's seen everywhere. As for the attack, grass and a colourless for 30 damage and automatic sleep? No. Even with sleep, they got a 50% chance they wake up, so you've just done 30 for 2 energy. The one thing I will say here is you can use counter energy, and counter energy is very useful, and it would pay the attack cost in one go. But are you really gonna be attaching a counter energy to this Pokemon just so you could do 30 plus sleep? I don't think you particularly want to, and I know that that's not something that I want to be doing. But I'm still going to be giving Shaymin a nice solid free Wassies. Remember, free Wassies says you need to put a copy of it in your deck, and you know what? This is a card that could see a bit of play. I think you need a copy or 2 of this in your binder, and that is a classic definition of a free Wassie card. Now that is Landmin. We've also got Skymin coming in this particular set. It's not as exciting as the last one, which wasn't even the most exciting card ever. It is a colourless Pokemon, which means you hit absolutely nothing for weakness, but your weakness to lightning could be an issue with the promo Tapu Koko, and maybe the Shining Legends Raikou sees a bit of play at some point, if we ever get to a stage where lightning decks are good. Resistance to fighting is very nice because Buzzwole is likely to stay around for a while. Resisting him is pretty nice. Retreat cost to 1 is good because you've got a single energy attack going, so there's a nice bonus. And if you thought 80 HP on the last Shaymin was low, then 70 HP on this one is really nothing to write home about. Now there is weirdly some synergy here because it's got a very similar attack. You get to search your deck for 2 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench. It's cool for family. We've seen this many times before. It means you get 1 fewer Pokemon than you would with the other Shaymin, but it means that they can be all of the same type, which wasn't an issue with Landmin. So, yeah, better and worse in one. The thing is, do you really want to be searching for 2 basic Pokemon and putting them onto your bench? Is that really the best use of your attack? What I will say is that there's been plenty of Pokemon that have had this attack in the past, and at times, in certain formats they saw play. This is basically Cool Energy. Cool Energy was an energy you attached and you got to search for 2 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench, and then it ended your turn. And for a long time, Cool Energy actually saw quite a lot of play. So I'm not saying this is terrible, I'm saying it's moderately useful in the same way the first Shaymin was. Having said that, it's been a while since Cool for Family attacks were really quite useful and saw quite a lot of play, which is a slight problem. One thing I do like the idea of using with this is Ninja Boy. So you pop an energy on Shaymin, search for a couple of bench Pokemon, then maybe the next turn you pop a double colourless on there and Ninja Boy it into a Drampa, for instance. I'm not imagining anyone's ever actually going to do this. I'm just saying if you've got a Pokemon like this that is a starter, something you want at the beginning of your turn, beginning of the game, just to set yourself up, do consider using Ninja Boy to turn it into a Pokemon you would rather have. And with Tapu Lele in the format, finding Ninja Boy is easier than it's ever been before. It's cool for family, we've seen it a lot, it's fine, it's not amazing, it's not as good as the other Shaymin in some decks, but it's a nice setup attack if you need it. Of course, one of the big issues is, in any deck at the moment, you can just play a Alolan Vulpix, which lets you search for any 2 Pokemon, including a Tapu Lele, and does it for 0 energy, although do remember that Alolan Vulpix will be scuppered by an N. The second attack here, 1 colourless energy, 20 damage. You're never hitting anything for weakness. This is, on my notes here, I've written, about the lamest attack imaginable. And I think that's a fair description. Okay, colourless for 10 would be slightly lamer. Don't like it. Even with a choice band Kukui, you're only doing 60. The last note I've written for this attack is just no. This is about between 2 and 3 Wassy card. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. Call for Family is a fine attack. And certainly getting 2 basic Pokemon is better than getting 1, which a lot of Call for Family attacks in the past have done. But it's not a particularly inspiring attack. I think we've got better starters in this format. I actually made a video about them. I'll try and remember to pop a link in the description. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is both the new Shaymin. But as always, I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice, and especially tell me which of these 2 Shaymin you prefer and which one you think is likely to see more play. Go nuts, be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, etc., you can do so by going to patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.